34 Melbourne International Motor Show was in its final day. Several thousand people had passed through its doors to view the latest in engineering and innovation and marvel at advances in technology. The great British names of Austin, Vauxhall and Hillman vied for attention with the brash American houses of Studebaker, Pontiac, Oldsmobile and Chevrolet. The Rolls-Royce Phantom II stood with as much decorum and dignity as possible among the miles of bunting, balloons and roving brass bands. The show sensation was, however, undisputed. Elevated on a rotating stage, it seemed to reign over the other displays. Even surrounded by the world's best machines, its revolutionary shape caught the eye. Motoring enthusiasts jostled the popular press for the best vantage from which to view the ultra-modern lines and avant-garde design of the Chrysler Airflow. The gentleman from Sydney stood back from the main crowd, observing the Chrysler exhibit at a distance. They stood shoulder to shoulder, a flamboyantly dressed bohemian with a Leninist goatee, a solid, sturdy man whose weathered face aged him beyond his 32 years, and between them, the tallest of the three, whose immaculately tailored suit was offset by dark hair that refused to stay in place. "What do you think?" Rowland Sinclair pushed his hair back, trying to ignore an absurd feeling of disloyalty. His companions showed no such reluctance. "She might just be the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Clyde Watson-Jones was determined to encourage Rowland to finally bury the 1927 S-Class Mercedes he'd lost in the racing accident that had nearly taken his life. To Clyde's mind, it was time Rowland got over his first love and allowed another to take her place. "I wouldn't go that far," Rowland murmured, distracted for a moment by a thought of Edna. She'd refused to come to Melbourne with them on the grounds that she preferred not to witness grown men reduced to simpering lovesick boys by shiny machines. Edna was ever direct. He missed her. "Aesthetically, she's a little unusual," Rowland offered as both praise and concession. The automobile was yellow as the Mercedes had been, but the similarities stopped there. The Chrysler was sleek and low, with a chrome grille that cascaded over its curved hood like a waterfall. The rear wheels were encased in fender skirts, and the full metal body rested between the wheels rather than upon them. She was like no other car on the road. Rowland thought her a work of art. "There is no exquisite beauty without some strangeness in the proportion." Milton Isaacs nudged Rowland companionably. Rowland smiled. "Poe," he said, acknowledging the author whom Milton had clearly no intention of crediting. Some years before, Milton Isaacs had been introduced to Rowland as a poet, a title he embraced in every way but by actually writing verse. Instead, he maintained his erudite literary reputation by randomly quoting the work of the great romantic bards without the tedious formality of attribution. "She'd cost a small fortune, I expect," Clyde said half-heartedly. What did small fortunes matter to a man who had such a large one? The Sinclairs' holdings had begun as pastoral enterprises, but under the astute control of Rowland's elder brother, they had become an empire that seemed to Clyde to know no bounds. "Johnston's getting old," Rowland replied. Clyde nodded. Johnston, Rowland's chauffeur, had begun in the service of the Sinclairs in the days of horse and carriage. He had come with Woodland's house, the Sinclairs' grand home in exclusive Wallara, of which Rowland was now master. Use of the Rolls-Royce, which also came with Woodlands, necessitated the use of Johnston, who took any attempt to use the vehicle without him very personally. It was the nature of Rowland Sinclair that he would buy a new motor car rather than risk offending his chauffeur. "Are you going to buy her then, Rowley?" "Yes, actually, I already have. I thought we could drive her back up to Sydney." "Well, that's cause for celebration. Good show, comrade," Milton responded, as though Rowland was a new father, clapping his shoulder and shaking his hand in congratulations. "This calls for a drink. Bloody oath, won't Ed be surprised when we pick her up in that jalopy?" "If she even notices," Rowland said, laughing. Edna was determinedly disinterested in automobiles.